Okay, ready? I'm gonna pause. Hey guys, welcome back to another quarantine video. It might look a little different in here because
It is.
you know we're
not in church.
we're not in church today. We are at my house recording. It's fine. We all are neighbors, so we've all been social distancing, and let's get our worship on.
These pieces broken and scattered, mercy gathered, mended and empty-handed, but not forsaken. I've been set free. I've been set free. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the
right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another quarantine series. We are at week 6 of being in quarantine. I hope everyone's doing good. Everyone's staying safe and staying inside. We really miss seeing all your faces at church, but, praying that hopefully soon we'll all be back together again, right? So I just want to go straight into it. And so I'm kind of going to divide this message into 2 parts. So week 6, we'll have the first part. Week 7, we'll have the continuation of this message, because I feel it's very important for us to understand what this passage is really telling us as Christians, and just as humans, what it is that we need to be accomplishing as far as God's purpose for our lives, right? So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Matthew 6. We're going to be looking at verses 1 through 8. So we're going to be looking at Matthew 6, verses 1 through 8. And I'm just going to go ahead and pray real quick to get us started, and then just dive into the word. God, I thank you for allowing us to be here together. Even though it's virtually through a screen, God, I know that you're still present and you are still able to allow us to receive a message. God, I pray that you use me to give this message as correctly as I can. God, I pray that you allow myself to be used, and I pray for each person that's watching this, God, that they may be blessed, that they may be reminded of their purpose here, God. And I thank you for all that you're doing in our lives and in the church, God. So Matthew 6, verses 1 through 8. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm reading NLT version, and it goes, "Watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose a reward from your Father in heaven. When you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth, they have received all the rewards they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners and in the synagogues where everyone can see them. I tell you the truth, that is all the reward they will ever get. But when you pray, go away by yourself, shut the door behind you, and pray to your Father in private. Then your Father who sees everything will reward you. When you pray, don't babble on and on as the Gentiles do. They think their prayers are answered merely by repeating their words again and again. Don't be like them, for your Father knows exactly what you need before you ask him." So this specific chapter, Matthew 6, is a lot of teachings that we as Christians, as believers of Christ, need to grasp and run with, right? So the Bible is meant to be a guide for us, a spiritual guide for our lives and for our relationship with God. So when we're reading this and it's talking about giving to the needy and it's talking about prayer and fasting, I think it's very important that we remember that we must be humble in our actions, that we are all broken vessels. And I love that they sang that song. That was the first song they sang for this week, and it was Broken Vessels. And the song is just so powerful because it's such a reminder. It says, "All the pieces broken and scattered, in mercy gathered, mended and whole, empty-handed, but not forsaken, I've been set free." We sometimes forget that we are broken. We forget that we are not perfect Christians. We are not perfect examples of ministry. We are not perfect examples of what humanity is supposed to look like. We are supposed to strive to be like Jesus. Jesus is the only perfect example of humanity, and he's the perfect encapsulation of love and mercy. And I think a lot of times as Christians, we forget that we need to be merciful. We need to be loving. We need to knock ourselves down a little bit, humble ourselves down. Don't allow our egos to get way too big that we start doing things for the glorification of others. And I think it's very important. He's saying, when you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners and in the synagogues where everyone can see them. Tell you the truth, that is all the reward they will ever get. There's no reward for praying publicly aside from the praise of people. When you're praying in private by yourself with the doors closed and it's a moment of intimacy, which is you and God, there's the reward there is the relationship that you have with God. The reward there is you're allowing God into your life. You're allowing God to be your Savior, not just a Savior. And I think it's very important for us to understand that Jesus is the Savior, yes. Jesus grants us salvation, yes. But it's all meaningless if we don't allow that proclamation to be in our lives, to control our decisions. If we just simply believe that, yes, Jesus came and he died on the cross and he resurrected in 3 days and he grants us salvation and we are now set free from sins because of that, that's great. Believe that. But don't just believe it and leave it. Believe it, hold it, run with it, and allow your life to be impacted by that. And I think it's very important for us to remember we are broken vessels that are mended by mercy. We are mended together by God's mercy, by God's love. And it's so important for us to remember that we are not perfect. No one is perfect. We cannot look at other people and expect them to be perfect. We cannot look at other people and even judge them because we are no one to judge. And I think it's super important for us as Christians to remember that when we are looking at other Christians, at other people in the ministry, in the church, that we are not looking at them and forsaking them. That we are not looking at them as broken vessels and thinking they need help, they need Jesus, because everyone needs Jesus. We all need Jesus. We all fall short of God's glory. And the reality is that we as Christians need to humble ourselves. And, we have a bad rep as Christians because we believe we're so high up and we're so perfect and we're so good. And yet we judge our brothers and sisters because of whatever reason. You think, oh, they shouldn't be doing something. And it's something that impacts the church very hard, especially, is the judgment of within the church, And us as Christians, we need to strive to be better than that. We need to strive to look at people with love, to not do things out of our glorification, but only to glorify God. God calls us to not be hypocrites. And I think that's such a strong word, to be called a hypocrite. And yet it's the reality of a lot of us as Christians is we live in hypocrisy because we don't accept the fact that we need to humble ourselves, that our ego needs to be shot way down. And we need to remind ourselves that the only reason we are in a certain position, whether that be in ministry, in life, or whatever it may be, the only reason we are there is because of God's glory, not because of our own actions. And I just want to end this section of this message with a reminder to look at your life, reflect upon yourself, and remind yourself that you need to be humble. Don't allow your ego to get in the way of your ministry, in the way of your relationships with people, in the way of your relationship with God, most importantly. Because if we start glorifying ourselves and thinking, oh, I'm better and I should be doing this because I've put in the work and I do this and I do that, that's too many eyes and not enough God in that. And God will use whoever he wants to use. He does not care what we think. God can use the most, and he does use the most unqualified person. He uses me, he uses you to do his job. So we are nobody to think that person shouldn't be doing that, or why is that person serving? Like, that is not our business. And we as Christians need to remember to be humble, to not live in hypocrisy, and to remind ourselves, are we simply believing that Jesus did all these things? Are we simply believing that the Bible is real but not applying it to our lives? Are we not applying it to our relationship with God? And I just want to urge you guys this week to reflect upon your own life, reflect upon your actions, reflect upon the fact that, am I being a hypocrite in my Christianity, in my relationship with God? Am I judging others? Am I thinking I am better than someone else simply because of whatever actions I'm doing? And remind ourselves that Jesus calls us to do a job. Jesus calls the most unqualified people to serve, and Jesus has a purpose for each and every single one of us. And it's not our position to dictate who gets to do what. We simply need to support each other, and especially in times like these where things are tough and there's a lot of uncertainty and people feel lonely and people feel confused, we have to be that reminder of God's mercy, of God's love. And I just pray that you guys are able to take this message and apply it to your life, apply it to your relationship, and really reflect on what God's trying to do here in this season of waiting, in this season of growth, in this season of planting. I think right now we're in a season where we are able to set a foundation in our relationship with God and really decide where is this going to go? Where is my life going to go? Am I trying to grow with God? Am I trying to stay stagnant? Am I glorifying myself, or am I trying to glorify my Savior? Right? And I just pray that you guys take this message, run with it, apply it to your life, and I'll see you guys next week. And God bless, and I hope you guys are staying safe. Remember to continue practicing social distancing, and God bless y'all. Bye.